Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Derek Elom Ashelevi, and tonight we're gathered for one important reason. It is Joy News National Dialogue on Ghanaian youth and what they have to say about the climate crisis we're all experiencing. I beg your pardon. Guess what? Tonight we've assembled researchers, development partners, youthful voices who are covering stories concerning the climate, and Ghana's media experts to help us solve the existential crisis we've seen and experienced all over these years. But then we can sit in Accra and in our comfort zone and talk about climate change, just like how we talk about Galamsey. But the people who live in the community see it further and farther than we do. And so we're joined here by somebody who has worked especially in communities talking about climate change. He's a volunteer and a community development professional at COPS Africa, Ghana. Gafaru Aminu, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. I'm really excited to be joining you tonight.
Beautiful. Did I get a pronunciation of Gafaru? It sounds Muslim. Did I get it right? Gafaru. Thank you so much, Gafaru. Gafaru, you live in the communities, and in the communities, they don't know what climate change is. For them, what is their reality of what we call climate change?
Okay. Thank you so much for the question. First of all, I would like to set this disclaimer. The communities do understand what climate change is.
Beautiful.
They do. They have a deeper understanding of what climate change is. And so it is only when it is not expressed in the language that they understand. That is why it looks like they don't understand, but they do. In fact, they understood climate change even before I was born.
Wow.
So they have that particular understanding of what climate change looks like. They have seen the changes and how they now have to wait for longer periods before planting is done. How pests have become so difficult to control as compared to the previous years. All of these changes, they have understood, they have a deeper understanding of what climate change is. So that is the kind of understanding that they have in the communities.
So that's to say we do a lot of disservice by not breaking it down in their language for them.
Exactly. That is it. So even when you look at it, my focus on this particular project has always been about how do I explain something like, okay, the National Adaptation Plan in Dagbanle, because I speak Dagbanle, and the people I serve in the northern region equally speak Dagbanle. So how do I explain climate change to my people in Dagbanle? There is a National Adaptation Plan, and all of them have a role to play in ensuring that whatever goals we have set in that particular plan has come to realization. But they are cut off because even their own experiences, their competences, and the in-depth knowledge that they have about some of these things are not captured. So they have a deeper understanding of some of these things. So my focus has always been, how do I really bring some of these things, the realities of these communities, to the conversations that we are having by speaking the language that the people understand. So they really understand what climate change is.
I love that. Let's get out for Gafaru. I like the education on that. And you can do better than that. Yeah. Moving on. Gafaru, you worked once again with these communities. And the question is, if communities were given more power in climate decision making, what would you think they would ask for? If we brought them to the table and not just leave it as those at the top, what would the average TZ seller, which is your favorite food, tell us to do, in solving this canker we have?
Remember, we are a part of you. And we are not empty. We have something. In fact, we have a lot that could help whatever canker we are facing currently. That is what you would hear from the people I'm serving if they've been given the opportunity. I said earlier that they understand climate change better than I do. Let me cite this as an example.
Feel free.
When I first got deployed to the community, what surprised me was the resourcefulness and the knowledge that existed in that particular community.
Which community for them?
That is Benaile. It is found in the Kumbongo district of the northern region of Ghana. That is where I serve as a Co-Africa volunteer. So when I got there, I realized each household in that particular community had a compost pit where they are manufacturing organic compost to fertilize their crops. These were people who didn't need education as to how they could adjust. These were people who understood that chemical fertilizers were doing them harm instead of what? Good. So they started adapting even before I started talking about climate change to them. So mine was just to ask, so what can we do? Because as a Core Africa volunteer, we don't do things for people. We work with some 3 approaches. One of it is the asset-based community development, where we leverage what the people have, their knowledge, be it indigenous, their skills, natural resources, physical resources, and institutional systems that are in there. We leverage all of these things to facilitate development in these particular communities. So when I realized, mine was just to ask them, so what exactly can I do, or can we do once again, to improve whatever you are doing? Because the challenge with what they were doing was that they said they wanted to be producing that in large quantities because they have several hectares of lands. However, the ones that they always produced from the pits were not enough to fertilize those pieces of lands. So mine was just to find an alternative way of generating the compost. So I facilitated the training with them on how to generate the compost. And that was even when they got to understand that there were some assets around them, things they had and didn't know that they could even be used to generate organic manure for the application. And now when you come to the community, everyone in the community produces organic manure. And they are producing that in large quantities to fertilize their crops. The second thing that I found about the people is that they have certain cultural beliefs that you can find, okay, there is strength in what these people are doing. For instance, the video that I made, the reporting that I did as a result of this particular program, I realized they have certain beliefs. They have a particular protected forest that is untouched. They have certain species of animals in there that are untouched. Why? Because the tortoise in there are considered their totems. They are seen as their totems, and nobody dares touch them. And the 3 species over there are protected. Why? Because that is where our shrine is. So when you look at that particular thing, it is the power that particular indigenous knowledge has that has protected that thing over the years. So if you give any of my community members the opportunity to be here, the only thing you would hear from them is, give us the opportunity. We are all part of it. We can contribute significantly to reducing the climate vulnerabilities all of us experience. That is what you hear from my community members.
Oh, I like that, because I had no, yeah, please give a hand. Give me a hand. I had not even thought about it in that sense, because we all know part of the greatest causes of climate change is deforestation, cutting down all our trees. But if even tradition is preserving our trees, which is in the end helping promote and preserve our climate, that's very important. Thank you for that. In a minute, so please grab your microphones. The question is, if you had the attention of Ghanaian leaders, perhaps this is a national dialogue, you never know. And I'm probably sure the Minister for Climate Change and Sustainability is probably watching. If you had his attention for 1 minute, what are you going to tell him?
Okay, so if given the opportunity to meet a policymaker today, the message will be very simple. Please come back to us at the grassroots level. We need you. We need one another. And when making the policies, we don't want to see the gaps in there. We want the realities of the communities to reflect in the policies over there. And when thinking about getting funds to implement them, please leverage these 3 approaches. And definitely, there'll be something for us to do. Asset-based community climate adaptation strategies, which I have been implementing as a Core Africa volunteer in the community. For the community-led project I have facilitated, if I tell you that this particular community is just a 17-household community, and they've been able to raise 35,000 cedis, both in cash and in kind, to get this particular project implemented, it will shock you. Within in a month or within 6 months, these would have been able to raise that particular amount of money. Just 17 households. So whilst we are talking about even climate financing, the focus should not even be about the big green climate finance or whatever at the global level. We have not even started exploring the internal strengths we have. Because I was able to build the capacity of the community to raise funds locally to get this done. When we come back to that grassroots level and we really want to empower them, something magical would happen, and we'll definitely be able to reduce the climate vulnerabilities our communities face.
Beautiful. Gafaro basically says, don't sit at the top and think the weather is a little colder. Come to the grass and you probably find it hotter there. And so I want to appreciate these guys one more time for going into the communities, bringing the stories we never hear. And we did this in partnership with Africa Climate Collaborative with the University of Ghana, CDKN Ghana, YEFO Ghana, Beyond the Science. My name is Derek Elom Ashilevi.